I hear a lot of people talking in America about how happy they are about getting rid of the Department of Education. Why should you get rid of the Department of Education? And talk about the problems. And I think that that's completely wrong. You should not get rid of the Department of Education. And you don't hear anybody talk about why. What are the issues? And I'd say don't get rid of the Department of Education. Fix what's broken in the Department of Education. And you don't like to have all that stuff about sex in schools. I agree. And why not have, like, all the states have a standardized communication process that could represent all the states, that could be unified in the Department of Education? You see, there's so many different states. What surprises me is when you have some states ranked first, some states ranked last. And in one country, I think that the Department of Education should serve the purpose that there is no first and there is no last, and that education isn't dictated by the wealth of the local economy or the corruption or lack of corruption in the local state. For all the people that want to get rid of the Department of Education, did you think that if a large body was corrupted, that individual state bodies wouldn't be corrupted? And what are the odds that you fix the corruption in one body, but look at how many states there are? How are you going to fix the corruption in all levels in all states? It seems to me like more of a divide and conquer disaster capitalism strategy than something that's fundamentally cares about the education, about the people, and the education about the kids. You know, I was a teacher for about 20 years in China, not here. And China's pretty big, a lot more people than the U.S. And I always believed in China, whether I'm teaching at the richest school, boarding school, or the poorest school, or one for the state, that every student deserved equal opportunity and equal education. Now, I think there's a lot of problems in the U.S. system. I think that the way that they lowered the standards to let everybody pass, instead of taking a look at why people aren't passing and increasing the investment in the teachers and the education, and at what level were they failing before their test scores started failing, and making more communication with parents. I think that there could be a lot of change in how management, and in a school, the management of the teachers, they're teachers in a way themselves. You have to teach your team. You have to understand the strengths and the individual characteristics of each teacher. You have to make sure that there's significant funding, and there can be a communication at the state level without it being overly bureaucratic. I mean, you need to have the minimum bureaucracy of how do we deliver a message from point A to point B. Okay, everybody, we're going to all be on the same page here. This is our method and our channel of communication. And we need to make sure that we have a unilateral minimum. A minimum within every state. So the states with the most do not provide more than the states with the least. If there was a war, you wouldn't say, oh, we're going to save our good army for these states, and these other states over there, well, we'll give you the muskets and the horse cavalry. I think that there'd be a unified distribution of military hardware, just as there should be a unified distribution of education. I'm sure that if there was a world war and then an individual state was attacked, we would have the federal army, the U.S. Army, the Marines, all the four forces of the Army, the Air Force, the Navy. They would all guard every state. And yes, do states have individual militia? Yeah, they have the National Guard, right? However, that doesn't replace the country's defense. I don't think that the education should be any different. Of course, you should have a state board of education, but the role of the federal Department of Education is there to make sure that the states that are not up to par, that they have all the resources to become up to par. And at the same time, the states that are leading the curve and that have found ways that work, that's awesome. How are we going to distribute that amongst the other? That lesson in one state, we invent the light bulb in New York City. Oh, we're not going to tell the people in New Mexico we're going to let them live with candles. Capitalism gets so competitive that they forget that education shouldn't be a competition amongst states. Education should be like a tide that raises all boats, right? So if the Department of Education has problems, fix the problems, because the benefits from a unified system that could distribute the knowledge and the wisdom and help those which don't have access to the knowledge and wisdom get equal resources. That's something that, on a divided standpoint, you're going to need more bureaucracy, what people proclaim to hate. If you have every different state operating on multiple different levels, just the communication efforts and the efforts to get a message across to different states is going to require a ton more bureaucracy. And in one country, if you call it America, the United States, we're taught, or we have an old adage that says, united we stand, divided we fall. That goes in the classroom. Does that mean that there's a problem with overspinning and that there's a problem with different issues? Fix the problem. Fix those problems. Be careful of what you wish for. All children in all states should have a school bus. All children in all states should have equal opportunity for special needs students. All children in all states should not have sex taught in the classroom. All children in all states should have testing that promotes teaching a lesson and not lowering the standards at the point that somebody thinks the standards need to be lowered in order for tests to be passed. The question should be, what happened? What's not being taught? How can we empower students to pass that test? And be careful, because it's a dog whistle. For them to generalize, say, oh yeah, they want to change your thinking. They want to have it. They want to teach you wokeism and all that other stuff. That's somebody that's not speaking about the issues. And if there are issues, let's speak to them. Let's correct those issues. A very fine pot on an oven or a nice iron skillet, it could be used to make wonderful dishes, or you could have a bad cook use it, make it you cook terrible dishes. But if you have a bad cook make a couple bad dishes and you throw away that cast iron skillet, well, it's not going to be good when you don't have that nice skillet to cook on. You don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater. Be careful what you wish for. Be careful the momentum in the mainstream. Be careful when everybody's pushing momentum more than principle, okay? God help the students, because what a travesty of all the things happening that we talk about getting rid of the system that should be there to help students and not fixing it if that system has problems. Learn how to use that cast iron skillet. Don't throw it in the trash. They're awesome to cook with when they're used correctly. That's all I got to say.